What was the biblical description of Moses in the Bible of what he looked like? According to the book of Exodus chapter 2, verse 19, the daughters of a priest of Midian confused Moses to be an Egyptian, which means that the ancient Egyptians and the Israelites who were slaves in Egypt had very similar skin complexion. When Moses met God at the burning bush, he was told to put his hand into his bosom and take it back out, as it would be a sign to show God's power through Moses, as his hand became white as snow, which is what leprosy is according to the Bible. This concludes what Moses looked like in appearance as a dark-skinned Israelite from the tribe of Levi, which would be your modern-day Haitians of today's era.
Did you know that the transatlantic slave trade was prophesied by Moses in the Bible? Here is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and verses 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. These are the very people who are called Negroes today, whom are the real Jews that were sold by African tribes in the west coast of Africa to the white Frenchmen and British settlers. They traveled across the Atlantic, being at the bottom of cargo slave ships for months until they came into America to serve their time in captivity, not being helped by any nation. With more than 400 years of free labor and no reparations, they would have to return to the very laws which their ancestors threw away, returning back to God until the day of deliverance, who will destroy his enemies. The story of struggle continues as they seek justice and liberation, holding on to faith and unity.
Why did it take 40 years for the children of Israel to get out of the wilderness and into the promised land? Well, immediately after God freed them from the hand of the Egyptians, they wanted to go back, believing they wouldn't be able to survive in the wilderness without them. They sinned many times in the eyes of God, which prevented them from inheriting the land promised towards their forefathers. While Moses received the laws of God on Mount Sinai, the people of Israel made a golden calf. They collected more manna than they should have and rebelled against Moses and Aaron. Moses himself, according to Numbers chapter 20 and verses 7 through 12, speaks about how he even ignored to follow the proper instructions by God to provide water unto Israel, but rather striking the rock twice instead, and giving himself the credit for giving water unto Israel. This prompted God for Moses' generation to not enter nor see the land of Canaan due to their sin and lack of faith, but rather Joshua and Caleb who followed after. Did you know that UFOs are mentioned in the Bible? They are actually called chariots, according to Scripture in some context, as even the prophet Ezekiel seen them in a vision received from God, as he described them as a wheel within a wheel. It is also mentioned in the book of Zechariah chapter 5 and verse 1, as Zechariah said, "Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll." These are vehicles that the angels of God operate to go to and fro in and out the earth according to Ezekiel, and it is this same spacecraft that took and received Enoch, Elijah.
Ready when you're ready, y'all. Ready when you're ready, y'all. Let's listen when you say the y'all.
Many people have been deceived through Hollywood that it is little green aliens that operates these vehicles when it is actually angels of God.
4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was that of a man. But each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Their legs were straight. Their feet were like those of a calf and gleamed like burnished bronze. Under their wings on their 4 sides they had the hands of a man. All 4 of them had faces and wings, and their wings touched one another. Each one went straight ahead. They did not turn as they moved.
Oh, that's cool. You can almost hardly look at it.
We've seen them in Mississippi like this, but never like never like
And the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. All right, Israel, you saw that. The apparent flash of lightning. Now, this happened, I believe that was like 2011, I believe that happened, and I believe that was in 2011. But do you see, it's the very same thing. These orbital lights. That's what it's describing right here. And what did it emit? It emitted that flash of lightning and just took off. Broke, as we discussed earlier, the laws of physics. They put this on the news. I know they wish they never would have done that. I know it. But guess what? It's happening. And they have been visiting here, and that was in Jerusalem. So you know what time it is. Y'all know what time it is.
Continue to swirl around those mysterious crafts in the skies.
69 News reporter Jack Reinhardt spoke with a drone expert, and he joins us live in Phillipsburg, where some of those drone sightings have occurred. Jack.
Melanie and Jim, the drone instructor we spoke with says he's personally not concerned about any of these drone sightings. Meanwhile, a couple lawmakers representing Warren County are calling for action and answers.
We can see them up here tonight.
Especially because they're flying at night, I wouldn't be so concerned about my privacy.
Privacy is one of the concerns swirling in New Jersey as people report mysterious drones above private homes. Warren County Community College president and drone instructor Dr. William Austin says drones flying at night would most likely use thermal imaging.
You're going to look like a block of light to anybody in one of those drones.
Dr. Austin says drones need to be at least 400 feet in the air by law.
They don't have thermal. You're going to look like you're going to fade into the darkness like everybody else.
He says if you shoot a drone down or otherwise knock one out of the air, you can face serious penalties with the law. People have reported seeing drones the size of cars.
There are a lot of people who are mistaking airplanes, even jets landing, for drones right now.
The FBI is investigating the drone sightings. Governor Phil Murphy says he met with various agencies and officials about drone activity. He says the state is monitoring it and is in close coordination with federal and law enforcement partners. Meanwhile, State Senator Doug Steinhardt sent a letter to the governor requesting a joint legislative briefing to provide a clear update from Murphy and federal authorities.
Stop. So now you have two different people, physicists and engineers. What do engineers do? They build. They build. Physicists and engineers at CERN use the world's largest and most complex scientific instruments to study the basic constituents of matter fundamental particles. Subatomic particles are made to collide together at close to the speed of light. The process gives us clues about how particles interact and provide insights into the fundamental laws of nature. We want to advance the boundaries of human knowledge by delving into the smallest building blocks of our universe. Stop. So if you're not familiar with this machine, it is a machine called CERN, the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider. What it does, it spins, it takes particles, right? What it does, it takes energy, and they shoot it off faster than the speed of light. And they go and it whirls and it whirls and it whirls, and then they make them collide. And when they collide, it gives insight into particle structure. What they do is break it down. They can look at the particles. What breaks down matter? We're going to get into that. What breaks down matter? So this collision expands. It expands the universe that makes you able to look into the deepest, darkest places on this planet. It's a machine. It is a weapon. Let's continue. The instruments used at CERN and purpose-built particle accelerators and detectors. Accelerators boost beams of particles to high energies before the beams are made to collide with each other or with stationary targets. Stop! Did y'all pick up on that? It's an either or. They can take the particles, they can take the light and go ahead and collide them together, or they can point them at stationary targets. It's a weapon. That's what this whole thing with CERN is. They are creating weapons to break things down to its smallest particle. And I'm about to show you why. I've showed you this video in the past, but for many of you haven't seen it. But even for those that have seen it, you're going to know exactly why I showed you that so long ago, because I knew we was going to come to this. Detectives observe and record the results of these collisions. Founded in 1954, the CERN laboratory sits astride the Franco-Swiss border near Geneva, and that's Geneva, Switzerland. It was one of Europe's first joint ventures and now has 23 member states. So in other words, let's go ahead and figure all of this out here. What's going on right now? What's happening right now? They had to build this machine that sits miles underground to be able to point beams at something that their weapons are completely ineffective against. So without any further ado, I'm about to show you this next video, and now you're going to understand why they have this thing built. Here we go. Here we go. You get it? You understand now? You understand what's going on with this? Do you get it? Their weapons are ineffective against something that they already know is here. They've tried shooting these things. They've tried, and they failed every time. So what do they have to do? They cannot. For one, these things are not organic. So what they have to do, they had to break down matter. Now we're going to get the definition of matter. We have to get the definition of matter because as you saw, those bullets were not able to penetrate. First and foremost, did you see all of the chariots? It wasn't just one, there was many. So after this, go back and rewind and go look at it. There's a whole bunch of them up there. But now that you understand that, we're going to get to the technical side of it. Let's go ahead and get the definition of matter. Let's see what matter is all about. Here it is. In classical physics and general chemistry, matter is any substance that has mass and takes up space by having volume. Okay, let's continue it on. Properties. Any characteristic that can be measured, such as an object's density, color, mass, volume, length, malleability, melting point, hardness, odor, temperature, and more are considered properties of matter. So they were not able to deal with that inorganic chariot. So they said, okay, these weapons are not going to work. So now what we have to do, we got to break things down. We got to take the particles all the way down to see how we may be able to shoot these damn beams at those things so that our asses are not handed to us.
mysterious crafts in the skies.
69 News reporter Jack Reinhardt spoke with a drone expert and joins us live in Phillipsburg where some of those drone sightings are.
unprecedented storm, and it's causing us to have an unprecedented response.
This is the city of Asheville in the western mountains of North Carolina, 2,000 feet above sea level and hundreds of miles away from the nearest coastline. But such was the force of Hurricane Helene that nowhere in its path was safe.
We are surging search and rescue teams to help rescue people who are still stranded but can't communicate because cell phone service is down.
As many as 600 people are still on the missing list as search teams fan out across the state, navigating the worst flooding to hit the region in a century, with thousands of downed trees, power and mobile outages, hundreds of closed roads.
It's indescribable. I don't know, it just was covered in litter and trees and mud, and it's stinky, and it was all the way up the street up here. It just looked like the bottom of a river.
And this is the surface of Lake Lure, an hour below the mountains of Asheville, now an apocalyptic stew of rubble and debris after Helene ripped through the state, unleashing torrential downpours and catastrophic mudslides, killing 47 in North Carolina alone so far, and more than 115 in total since last Thursday. That's when Helene first made landfall on Florida's Gulf Coast as the most powerful hurricane, a Category 4 ever to hit the so-called Big Bend region, before tearing northeast through Georgia, the Carolinas and Tennessee.
Time don't fall now. At first you didn't know, but now you know now. In the book of life, a home ain't written. Trying to do what I gotta do to get in. To hell with this world, I do not fit in. Gotta watch my step, can't keep slipping. In the book of life, a home ain't written. Trying to do